Hello and welcome back to Storytime Classics Live. Today we have a very special interview with Trezana Beverley, Tony Award winner and star of Mabel Madness, here being broadcast by Southwest Shakespeare Company. Trezana, thank you for joining us today. How are you this fine day?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Excellent. Um, I have a few questions for you here. First of all, how is it in Arizona? How are you enjoying your stay so far?
It's very nice, and of course the air is so special out here, and you notice it. Living back in the east, we're dealing with a lot of car pollution, etc. But fortunately or unfortunately, the pandemic has helped that a little bit. But the air is beautiful. It's really fresh and nice, and the mountains are
Excellent. Let me
wonderful.
pull up these. Incredible. Just a moment. All right. Um, we were just delighted to have you in residence this week. As I was saying earlier, working with Mabel Madness and this story that you wrote yourself.
Yes,
It's
I did.
it's the story of Mabel Mercer, who was allegedly Frank Sinatra's muse. Can you tell us a little bit more without like ruining the punchline or anything like that?
Well, she came over here from France in 1938. And it was at that time that the singers of Frank Sinatra's generation, Mel Torme, Barbara Cook, Tony Bennett, they were all very young at the time. They were probably in their 20s. And it was Frank Sinatra who caught on to her first. And, he's a very serious singer. He was very serious. If you study his biography, he was very careful to understand, sight singing and, phrasing and things like that.
Hmm.
And somehow he got wind of this British woman who was singing in these rooms in New York, and he started to go study her. He discovered her at a cafe named Frank's on, I believe it was 57th Street. It was very famous. It was just on the cusp of the speakeasies. The speakeasies were going out of date, and these speakeasies were being transformed into nightclubs. And so Frank Sinatra discovered her at a club named Tony's, and he continued to go and study her. He was taking notes, and eventually he worked up enough nerve to speak to her directly and ask her if she would teach him her phrasing. And she did. And he fell in love with her. And he touted her praises forever. He wrote about her in his biography, and he was responsible for her getting the Presidential Medal of Freedom. He said everything he learned about phrasing, he learned from Mabel Mercer.
Fascinating. That's so interesting. I love that. And I saw the show last night. I happened to have that privilege to see that, and it really is a fascinating story of how this all came together and her influence on so many people, and just an incredible performer that she was. Um, Now, if you will, we'd like to know more about you. Um, I hear that you have a cat. You have a cat that can stand on 2 feet, like a
Mm-hmm.
person.
Yeah, yeah, I do. And when I saw her do it for the first time, I was utterly fascinated. I was home visiting my mom in Baltimore, and mother was cooking. She was in the kitchen. And my cat is very, very sensitive to aromas. She goes crazy, crazy. she screams and hollers whenever you're cooking and she smells food. So I was sitting on the sofa, and her name is Honey, and she was sitting there next to me, and I turned around and she literally was standing on her 2 feet on the sofa. And I saw her do it again. I've seen her do it about 3 times, and she'll stand on her 2 feet, and then sometimes she'll crouch, like a rabbit, and stand back up. It's utterly amazing. And I said to my mother, I says, Mother, my cat stands on 2 feet like us. It's amazing.
It's just the opposable thumbs that separate us, or they would take over and rule us all.
No, it's incredible.
Now, speaking of cooking, we also hear that you are a very good cook yourself.
Yes, I am. My father was he was a cook. He cooked. He was in the Merchant Seaman, and he was the head cook on the ship. My family, I come from a family of cooks. I used to overhear them giving each other notes at the end of the day, talking about, the dressing for the turkey, and, comparing notes. They were very serious cooks. And my grandmother could also cook. So I grew up around people who really appreciated, the quality of food, and not to drown food in a bunch of gravy and sauces, but really appreciate, the flavors and blends and how things can come together. I enjoy it. It's very calming. I used to watch my father baking, and he would sit there. He had a cigar. He used to smoke a cigar. And he would sit there with a cigar in his mouth. I guess from time to time, some of the ashes did get into the batter. But anyway, but he seemed so meditative and so quiet. And I realize, and now that I do it too, there is something very calming about it. Takes your mind off of things, that you can focus on something outside of your own thoughts and, cares, or should I put, cares, I should put it that way. And I understand I understand that now. I like to cook.
I've just really started into it myself, but
I pretty much cook every day for myself fresh. I rarely order out.
Very nice. I can understand the meditation and the calming and just the satisfaction in cooking a meal. I can understand just all of that completely. And now I've been really beating around the bush here, and now for the obvious question that's being couched by many pleasantries and cooking talk. You have a lot of awards. What is it like getting a Tony?
That's a good question. Well, I was very young at the time. I was very young at the time. I kind of had a feeling that I was going to get the Tony. I came out of Tisch School for the Arts at NYU, and one of my teacher mentors, and I would have to call him that, was a man named Omar Shapley. Omar Shapley came out of Second City, and had worked with Elaine May, Viola Spolin, all of those good people. And, he was proficient with theater games. And I discovered very early on in my school career that I was a very physical actress, close to a dancer, but not quite. And Omar and I just developed a very smooth rapport with one another. And he accompanied me to the Tonys. The school ordered me a limo. My family came up, and it was just quite amazing. Now, I've seen footage of me getting the Tony, and it's so interesting because I truly do look like a deer with in the flashlights. I look so scared, so innocent, so naive. I just laugh every time I look at it, and I said, "Gee whiz!" I said, "If I get another one, I said, there'll be a big contrast between that one and this one. Trust me.
That must be something, seeing yourself up there, accepting such a prestigious award, and just sort of having an out of body experience, and, and wondering, wow, was that real? Was that real?
Well, I'll share. Can I share you one more antidote behind that one?
Please do.
When you leave the stage, they take you to a room where you're supposed to sit, and then when they go to break, then you can come out and go to your seat. Well, no one told me that. And I sat in that room all through the end of the show.
Oh
And
no!
when they sang, "There's no business like show business," you don't see me on the stage because I'm back in the room.
Oh
So
no! Just
I couldn't get out.
oh no! But that's a
I'll
great
never forget it.
time.
It was at Tony Hell.
Let me out! I want to be part of the end number.
I couldn't bang on the door.
Oh, I'm so sorry that happened, but it's such a great story.
I know it's a great story. And of course, we will not let that happen again.
I know.
Trust me.
You're gonna have
I will
certain measures
not be
in
going
place.
in any little rooms.
Now, I see that you grew up in Baltimore.
Yeah.
Listening to you, I'm reminded how a Southern Baltimore can be.
How can a Southern Baltimore be? Tell
How
me.
can it?
Huh?
Listening to you, I'm reminded how a Southern Baltimore can be is one of the
Oh,
questions.
I don't know. I mean, Baltimore is Southern.
Hmm.
It is a Southern state. I mean, it's on the Mason-Dixon line,
Uh-huh.
but it's more Southern than it is North. It really is a Southern. It's a
Is it a
Southern.
mixture of like both cultures at once? So I mean, is it kind of
You know, Baltimore, unfortunately, was the last state in the Union to be integrated.
mhm.
Well, I should put it this way, to drop its Jim Crow laws. Um, I think we're looking at the mid 40s, where African American parents could not take their children to the park to swing, to play in a certain section of the park. They would be arrested. We had terrible Jim Crow laws in Baltimore. And so the city, I would say, has remained fairly divided. We had a terrible drug problem some years ago, which is very slowly beginning to clear itself up. There's been a lot of abandoned buildings in Baltimore, but we have a very good governor and mayor now, and they've been working very, very hard to advance the profile of Baltimore. Baltimore has gone through a lot. Baltimore's gone through
Absolutely. Um, as we were talking earlier, it is true that you were in some of the inaugural classes at the Tisch School for Performing Arts at NYU. Do you still travel to Tisch circles from those days? Do you still?
a lot. Oddly enough, I don't. Interestingly enough, I'm a little closer to the Juilliard School than I am to Tisch. I find that fascinating. I've done a lot of directing in the schools and the colleges around country, because I'm also a director.
Mm,
And I directed a couple of my first productions at Tisch. But after that, I did work at the Juilliard School for quite a few years, and really developed a rapport with the faculty there. And I think about that from time to time, and it's interesting because when when the School for the Arts was originally created. It was created by these incredibly brilliant performing masters in acting and movement. Carlo Mazzoni, Lloyd Richards, Peter Cass, Kristen Linkletter for voice. I mean, Irene Bird in movement. I mean, it was the creme de la creme. And and of course, it was on the cusp of the avant-garde theater. You know, you had the open theater, the living theater that was, cresting at that time. And these artists, these performing artists, were very, very interested in changing the profile of the American theater. They found themselves to be revolutionaries, and that's the way they taught us. So we were brought up in very avant-garde, cutting edge performance styles, etc. Now we learned the classics. I can do the classics.
Yes, you
But
can.
Juilliard, a few years after we opened, is interesting because I can remember us talking amongst ourselves as students about Juilliard. And of course, Juilliard focused on the classics more or less. And so there was probably some bit of a rivalry for a while there. But I have more of a rapport with the Juilliard school than I do with NYU, to tell the truth. But I use their studios. I do communicate with them, but I can't say that I'm sort of inside their circle.
That famous dress that you wore in For Color Girls Who Considered Suicide When the Rainbow Is Enough, that now hangs in the Smithsonian Institution National Museum for African American History and Culture. Talk about a surreal experience. Isn't that something? How does that
Quite
make you feel?
wonderful. Well, it's quite wonderful. And my cousin told me that the dress was there. I did not know that. And one of the great joys of my life is that my mother recently passed away. But before she passed away, I think now it's probably been about maybe 5 years ago, we took her there to see the dress along with the other memorabilia from For Colored Girls, because there's other memorabilia in the case. And my dear, dear mother held court. She was in a wheelchair, and we drove and we put her up in front of the case. And my mother, everyone that came by, that's my daughter, Do Trez, give them an autograph. Give them an autograph. Do you want to take a picture? Do you want to take a picture? It was something, but I know that it was one of the great joys of my mom's life to be there. It's
Oh, that's
wonderful.
fantastic. I love that story. Um, all right. This comes to the uncomfortable question. It's not that uncomfortable. It's the standard question that I ask of my guests to ask me something. I'm sure that there are lots of things that you would like to know about me. So fire away.
Because I asked the question to someone in the car. I think I asked it to Mary yesterday. Who is Bo Hackman?
Who is? That's a very good.
Yeah, you know why? You know why I asked that question? Because you in rehearsal, you have been so accommodating and kind, and you seem to be this mysterious person who just sort of is there and so willing to do things. And I'm going, who is this man? And that's really the question I have for you. Surprise, right?
Surprise.
Yeah.
I just I sort of do almost a little bit of everything.
Mm-hmm.
Actor. I work on props. I am cameraman for this show and have been for this festival for Deborah Ann Bird, who was last week.
Mm-hmm.
I do a lot of production assistant activities, and just really try and support the company. So that's sort of that's sort of who I am. Just of jack of all trades, master of none.
You obviously love the theater, and you love the environment and the experience of it, because you're there, and willing to be. And then let me tell you, people like you are very, very important. It really means something to have somebody you can just say, can you help me out with this, or blah blah, and then you don't get somebody that goes, looks cross-eyed at you, but someone that is so kind and generous. And I noticed that about you. And I said, who
Thank you
is
so
this
much.
man?
Yes, that that wow. Give me a moment here.
I know you weren't expecting that, were you? I'm a very observant person. I always talk to my students about being observant, and I observe that. So you weren't expecting that, were you?
Well, thank you so much
You're
for
welcome,
your very,
Paul.
very kind words there. um, Moving on with questions to you again. Like, what is your best story? What is your worst story from your life? That kind of puts you on the spot. You don't have to answer that, but just out of curiosity, do you have a good a story of either your best day or your worst day, or both?
I don't know. That's, for, I think that, for an African American young woman in the theater, fair skinned woman, naive, I would say this. I did not realize when I got the Tony, I really didn't realize what I had. And at that time, it was not easy finding representation. And I did not have a mentor at that time. And I always tell my students, it's very, very, very important to get a mentor. Maybe two, not your friends, because your friends are going to tell you what you want to hear, and they don't have experience. You need to have someone who knows the business, who can guide you through it in making those very, very tough decisions. This is a very extraordinary and exceptional profession. Most people are not actors. Uh, and it's a high risk profession. And you need to have people who understand that and can help you make wise decisions. I did not have that. And subsequently, it was like I was going through a revolving door. Things happened very, very quickly. Your life can really change on a dime when you get a major award like that, major exposure. It's like I went through this really fast moving revolving door. And one day I found myself on the outside. And that's when you have to make a decision. You really want to keep going with this? Is this what you do? And I had no choice. I'm called to this profession. It's who I am. And thank God I have more than one talent, because as you know, I teach, I direct, and I write. And it was with those other talents and gifts that I've been given that I continued my career. And I've managed to stay in the game. But it wasn't because I had taken advantage of certain opportunities that were offered me that I just didn't understand what I had. I really didn't understand what I had. And there were very few people around me to make it very clear. For example, someone would say to me, well, you can have anything you want. what does that mean to a kid in her 20s who has not had any experience? What are you talking about? And that's all that they would say. Keep moving, you know. So, I learned that lesson. It was heartbreaking because um, I, I, I knew my artistry. I knew the talent that I had. And of course, I was very young at the time. But that that's been my biggest lesson. And that's what I can share with my students. It's very, very important not to let those opportunities get away from you because they don't come around often. And you must know how to strike while the iron is hot and take advantage of those great moments that come along. But like I said, I was blessed because I have all these other talents and that's what I use. And when I put it in perspective, I think that I was supposed to use these other talents. And if I had if I had been working as profusely as some of my colleagues on TV are, because my generation is up there on TV. I mean, you see them all the time. Maybe I would not have influenced some of the students that I've had, or write some of the plays that I've written, or direct some of the shows. And they have been important and have had an influence. So, at the end of the day, it's not been wasted.
And we are so grateful for what you have contributed, and all the things that you have directed and written, and the students that you've influenced. Um, just an incredible person. Thank you, Trezana Beverley. This is something I know I'm going to remember all of my life, and I hope all of our viewing audience remembers all of their lives. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for talking with us. Please come back to us again. And I really recommend everyone to tune into or get tickets to our live broadcast of or not live broadcast, but our broadcast of Mabel Madness. And just an amazing experience. I am a bit flummoxed and a bit nervous. So thank you, thank you so much for speaking with us today.
You're very, very welcome, Bob. Take care.
Have you with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we will be talking. I will be talking with you later.
Okay. See you
Everyone
soon.
for tuning into this very special Storytime Classics live with our interview with Trezana Beverley. And let me see here. I see if there are any actual questions from the audience. I forgot to even turn that over. Let's see here. Some wonderful compliments, wonderful stuff. A question: how will these changing times affect your future writing?
Um, you know, I have I have said to my students that when the social milieu is as it is like now, it gives writers wonderful food, wonderful fodder for developing their plays, their stories. When I came out of NYU, we were in the mid to late 70s. And of course, we had the assassination of Dr. King, Kennedy, Malcolm X. It was such a turbulent period. However, as actors, you could walk out on the street and get a job because so many playwrights were writing profusely. They were just writing their fingers off, and they needed actors. So there is a lot of material now for writers to dig their brains into. You know, I've written a theater dance piece. My brand is theater dance. I've written a theater dance piece called A Song for Mara, the story of a homeless woman. I mean, so all of these issues, all of these social issues are very present right now, and it's a wonderful time to be a writer.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's just, it's the time where people are open to hear these stories, and I think it can change lives.
Hmm.
Thank you for participating in that. I believe that is all of the questions that I have right now. Wait, let's see. Also, do you see the rise of women in theater expanding?
I'm sure that it will. I'm sure that it will. Um, and it's a good thing too. Variety is the best part of life. I mean, you've got to have perspective from every angle, and women bring a different level of sensibility to the work. uh, and also, of course, we talk about stories that pertain to women. It gives women can give voice to women's issues more than men can, although there are some men who do write very, very well for females. And then you have the validation of female directors, filmmakers. I'm just so excited to see how many women are now directing film, how many women of color are directing film, to break this glass ceiling, because I mean, we have been so oppressed, and now things are beginning to even itself out. So I think it's a great thing.
It is indeed. Um, Thank you. So many people are just writing wonderful things here, saying thank you for bringing your love and experience to Southwest Shakespeare. We are grateful, and that is indeed the case. Thank you so much for spending your time with us and sharing these incredible stories and your wisdom and experience. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Bo. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you guys for tuning in to Storytime Classics Live. We will be back with regular programming on Monday, and we will see you then. Until then, tune in to Trezana Beverley's Mabel Madness. And you can get tickets at Show Tickets for You on the scroll at the very bottom. It says showtickets4you.com/events/SW Shakespeare. Thank you for tuning in today. Have a great rest of your day, and please remember, stay safe out there.